Subscribe to Storylab. Now, let's begin this one. Gregory Johnson had built his career on reading people. 32 years as a federal prosecutor taught you that much. He could spot a lie in the micro-expressions that flashed across a face, in the hesitation before an answer, in the way hands moved when words didn't match intent. It was a skill that had put away some of the worst criminals in the state, earned him a reputation as the Hammer, and eventually a comfortable retirement at 58. But that same skill had failed him when it came to Kirk Maloney. He remembered the first time Susan brought Kirk home, 3 years ago on a humid July evening. His daughter had been radiant, 26, and freshly promoted to senior marketing analyst at a tech firm downtown. Kirk had arrived in an expensive suit, driving a leased Mercedes he couldn't quite afford, armed with a smile that showed too many teeth and compliments that felt rehearsed. Gregory had watched from his reading chair as Kirk charmed Susan's mother, Edith, in the kitchen, offering to help with dinner while sprinkling in just enough self-deprecation to seem humble. The man worked in pharmaceutical sales, he'd said, recently transferred from Denver. He talked about building a future, about family values, about how lucky he was to have met someone like Susan. Edith had loved him immediately. Susan was already halfway to being in love. And Gregory had felt something cold settle in his gut. "You're being paranoid," Edith had told him later that night after Kirk left. "He's charming, successful, and he clearly adores our daughter. What more do you want?" "Something real," Gregory had replied, but he couldn't articulate what bothered him. Just a feeling, just instinct. He'd run a background check anyway. Clean record, decent credit, employment verified. Nothing concrete to justify his unease. So he'd swallowed his concerns, told himself he was being overprotective, and watched his daughter fall deeper into Kirk Maloney's carefully constructed web. The wedding had been 18 months ago, a lavish affair at the Riverside Country Club that Kirk's parents had insisted on paying for. Gregory had walked Susan down the aisle, her hand trembling slightly in the crook of his arm, her eyes shining with tears of joy. He'd given her away with a smile that felt like glass cutting his face. "You'll take care of her," he'd said to Kirk at the reception, his hand gripping the younger man's shoulder perhaps harder than necessary. Kirk had met his eyes with that salesman smile. "With my life, sir." The first 6 months seemed fine. Susan called regularly, sounded happy. Then the calls became less frequent. When Gregory asked about it, she made excuses. Work was busy. Kirk had them on a new fitness routine. They were renovating the guest room in their suburban two-story. Normal newlywed stuff, Edith assured him. But Gregory had noticed other things. The way Susan's laughter sounded hollow during Sunday dinners. The long sleeves she wore even in summer. The way she flinched slightly when Kirk placed his hand on her lower back. The forced brightness in her voice when she talked about their marriage. He'd pulled her aside at Thanksgiving, tried to ask if everything was okay. She'd assured him it was, but her eyes had flickered to where Kirk was chatting with Edith's sister, and Gregory had seen something there. Fear, maybe, or resignation. "Susan, if something's wrong." "Dad, please." Her voice had been sharp, desperate. "Everything's fine. Kirk's wonderful. I'm happy. Can you trust me?" But trusting her wasn't the problem. It was Kirk he didn't trust. 2 weeks ago, Susan had missed their weekly dinner. Kirk called to apologize, said she'd come down with the flu. The next week, the same excuse, a stomach bug this time. When Gregory offered to bring soup, Kirk laughed warmly and said Susan was already asleep, didn't want to spread her germs. "I'll take care of her," Kirk had said, and there was something in his tone that made Gregory's prosecutorial instinct scream. He'd driven past their house 3 times that week, saw lights on at odd hours, saw Kirk's car in the driveway, but Susan's missing. On the 4th night, he parked down the street and watched. At 11 p.m., a red Porsche pulled into the driveway. A woman got out, tall, dark-haired, wearing a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Kirk had met her at the door, pulled her inside with an urgency that suggested this wasn't their first meeting. Gregory had taken photos. License plate, timestamps, the woman's face. He'd run the plates the next day through an old contact at the DMV. Veronica Knox, 32, worked as a consultant for a private equity firm, lived in a penthouse downtown. Single, expensive tastes, social media full of luxury vacations and designer bags. He'd shown the photos to Sam Allen, his former investigator and closest friend, over coffee at their usual diner. Sam had whistled low. "You want me to dig deeper? I want to know everything," Gregory had said. But quietly, "I need to be sure before I tell Susan." That had been 4 days ago. Sam had promised results by the weekend. Gregory had gone home, helped Edith plan their anniversary trip, tried to act normal while his mind churned through possibilities. An affair was one thing, devastating but survivable. But the way Kirk had looked at that woman, the practiced ease of it, suggested something more calculated. And then came the phone call. Gregory woke to the sound of his cell phone vibrating violently on the nightstand. The clock read 3:47 a.m. Beside him, Edith stirred but didn't wake. He grabbed the phone, saw Kirk on the caller ID, and his heart immediately kicked into overdrive. "Hello." His voice was rough with sleep. "Gregory." Kirk's voice was loud, sharp with something that might have been excitement or might have been hysteria. "Sorry to wake you, old man, but I thought you want to know." There was something wrong in his tone. Not panic, not concern. Something else. Something that made Gregory's blood run cold. "What's happened? Is Susan okay?" "Susan." Kirk laughed. Actually laughed, high and brittle. "Oh, Susan just fine?" "Well, not fine exactly. Let me rephrase. She's exactly where she deserves to be." Gregory was already out of bed, pulling on pants with one hand. "Kirk, what are you talking about? Put Susan on the phone." "Can't do that, Gregory. See, here's the thing." Another laugh, this one darker. "Your precious daughter won't be coming home tonight. Or ever, actually. I thought you want to know, being her father and all. Seems like the decent thing to do." The world tilted. Gregory gripped the phone, so hard his knuckles went white. "Where is she?" "Kirk, I swear to God." "You'll what?" Kirk's voice was mocking now, all pretense of the charming son-in-law stripped away. "You'll use your fancy legal connections? You'll threaten me? It's too late for that, old man. Way too late. But hey, you're welcome to come by the house if you want. Door's unlocked. I left you a little treasure hunt, let's call it." "Kirk, check the guest room, Gregory." "Oh, and take your time. No rush now." The line went dead. Gregory stood in the darkness of his bedroom, phone still pressed to his ear, mind racing through scenarios each more terrible than the last. Edith was sitting up now, turning on the bedside lamp. "Greg? What's wrong? Is it Susan?" He was already moving, grabbing his keys, his wallet, his old service weapon from the lockbox in his closet. He'd kept it after retirement, kept it maintained, told himself it was just habit. Now he was grateful. "I'm going to their house," he said, his voice eerily calm despite the chaos in his chest. "Call Sam. Tell him to meet me there. And call the police? No, wait." He paused, mind working through the implications. If Kirk had hurt Susan, if this was what Gregory feared, then rushing in with sirens could make things worse. But he couldn't go in alone, couldn't risk. "Gregory, you're scaring me." Edith was out of bed now, reaching for a robe. What did Kirk say? He looked at his wife, saw the fear blooming in her eyes, and made a decision. He said Susan isn't coming home. He said to check the guest room. "I need you to stay here and wait for my call. If you don't hear from me in 30 minutes, call Sam and the police. Understand? I'm coming with you." "No." It came out harder than he intended. He softened his tone, crossed to her, gripped her shoulders. "Edith, I need you here. I need you safe. Please." She searched his face, saw whatever determination was written there, and nodded reluctantly. 30 minutes. Gregory kissed her forehead and headed for the door, mind already shifting into prosecutor mode, assessing threats, planning approaches, preparing for what he might find. The drive to Kirk and Susan's house took 17 minutes at this hour, streets empty and dark. He pushed his aging BMW to 80 on the highway, hands steady on the wheel despite his hammering heart. Their house sat in a quiet suburb called Millbrook Heights, one of those manufactured communities where every third house was the same model in different colors. Two-story colonials with neat lawns and two-car garages. The American dream in vinyl siding and mortgage payments. Gregory pulled to the curb 2 houses down, killed the engine, and sat for a moment in the silence. The house was dark except for a single light in an upstairs window, the guest room. Kirk's Mercedes sat in the driveway. Susan's Honda was nowhere to be seen. He checked his weapon, made sure his phone was on, and approached the house with the caution of someone who'd seen enough crime scenes to know that bad things often waited in quiet suburban homes. The front door was unlocked, just as Kirk had said. It swung open at Gregory's touch with a soft creak that sounded loud in the pre-dawn silence. He stepped inside, hand on his weapon, but not drawing it yet. The entryway was neat, shoes lined up by the door, Susan's jacket hanging on a hook. Normal. Too normal. Kirk! His voice echoed slightly. No response. The living room was to his left, kitchen straight ahead, stairs to the right leading up to the bedrooms. Everything looked undisturbed. No signs of struggle. No indication that anything was wrong except for the wrongness thrumming in Gregory's gut. He moved through the first floor quickly, checking rooms, finding nothing. The kitchen was clean, dishes put away. Susan's purse sat on the counter, her phone beside it. Gregory picked up the phone, dead battery. Convenient. Then he saw it. On the kitchen floor, a single piece of paper, folded once. He picked it up with the edge of his sleeve, old habits, and unfolded it. The note was typed, not handwritten. Professional. Planned. Check the guest room, old man. Gregory stared at the words, feeling that prosecutor's instinct kick into high gear. This was staged. All of it. The call, the unlocked door, the note. Kirk wanted him to find something. But what? And where was Kirk now? He took the stairs slowly, weapon drawn now, every sense on high alert. The second floor had 4 rooms. Master bedroom, 2 smaller bedrooms, and the guest room they'd been renovating. The guest room light was on, door slightly ajar. Gregory pushed it open with his foot and stepped inside. The room had been completely transformed. What had been a simple guest bedroom was now something else entirely. The walls were covered with photographs, hundreds of them, pinned up like a psychotic collage. Gregory stepped closer, his stomach dropping as he recognized the subjects. Susan, in all of them. But not Susan as he knew her. These were surveillance photos. Susan leaving her office. Susan at the gym. Susan having coffee with friends. Susan in her car, at the grocery store, walking through the park. Months of photos, maybe longer, chronicling her every movement. But that wasn't all. Mixed among the surveillance photos were others. Kirk with Veronica Knox at restaurants, at hotels, in the red Porsche. Kirk's hand on Veronica's thigh. Kirk and Veronica kissing in what looked like a parking garage. Kirk and Veronica in bed, and Gregory had to look away from those. In the center of the wall was a large corkboard, and pinned to it was a detailed timeline. Gregory moved closer, his hands beginning to shake as he read. The timeline went back 2 years, before Kirk and Susan were even married. It detailed Kirk's relationship with Veronica, their meetings, their plans. Gregory's eyes skipped from entry to entry, his prosecutor's brain piecing together the picture even as his father's heart recoiled from it. Phase 1, target acquisition. Susan Johnson, perfect mark. Stable income, family money, trusting disposition. Phase 2, courtship and marriage. Accelerate timeline. Parents' money will fund wedding, bank that. Phase 3, isolation. Reduce family contact. Create dependence. Establish control. Phase 4, asset consolidation. Add V to joint accounts. Prepare extraction. Gregory's hand was shaking now as he read the final entries. Phase 5, final play. Execute on date, 3 days ago. Extraction complete. Insurance policy activated. And beneath that, in handwriting now, Kirk's handwriting. Thanks for the money, old man. Your daughter made this almost too easy. By the time you read this, V, and I will be on a beach in Thailand, and Susan will be well. Check the closet. Gregory turned slowly, dread flooding through him like ice water. The closet door was closed. He crossed to it, weapon raised, and pulled it open. Inside, Susan was slumped against the wall, hands bound with zip ties, ankles similarly bound, a gag in her mouth. Her eyes were closed, face pale, clothes disheveled. For one horrible moment, Gregory thought she was dead. Then he saw her chest rise and fall. Susan. He was beside her in an instant, checking her pulse, weak but steady, pulling the gag free, examining her for injuries. "Susan, wake up. It's Dad. You're safe now." Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and confused. "Dad!" Her voice was hoarse, slurred. "What, where?" "You're okay. You're going to be okay." His hand was shaking as he cut the zip ties with his pocket knife. She collapsed against him, and he could smell something chemical on her breath. "Drugs. Kirk had drugged her." "Kirk," she mumbled. He said we were going to have a special dinner. But the wine tasted wrong, and then I couldn't move, and he was laughing, and then... "Chill. It's okay. Don't try to talk." Gregory pulled out his phone, called Edith. "I found her. She's alive. Call 911 and Sam. Tell them we need an ambulance at the Maloney house. Now." He hung up before Edith could respond, turned his attention back to Susan. She was crying now, confused and frightened, clinging to him like she had when she was a little girl and had nightmares. "He took everything," she whispered. "All our accounts, the retirement fund, everything. He said I was stupid for trusting him. Said I deserve this for being so weak." Gregory held his daughter tighter, feeling a cold, precise rage building in his chest. Not the hot anger of a moment, something colder, something calculated, something that felt like the courtroom, like building a case brick by brick until the walls closed in on a defendant with nowhere left to run. "Listen to me, Susan." He pulled back enough to look her in the eyes. "He didn't win. Do you hear me? He thinks he did, but he made a mistake. He made several mistakes." "What do you mean?" "He called me. He brought me here. He showed me all of this." Gregory gestured to the walls, the evidence of Kirk's scheme laid out like a confession. He got cocky, and cocky men make mistakes. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Gregory stood, helping Susan to her feet, supporting her weight as she swayed. He took one more look at the walls, at Kirk's carefully documented betrayal, and felt that prosecutor's smile, the one his colleagues used to call the hammer's grin, spread across his face. Kirk Maloney thought he'd gotten away with it. Thought he was untouchable on some beach in Thailand with his mistress and Susan's money. But he'd made his first critical mistake. He'd underestimated Gregory Johnson. And that, Gregory thought as he guided his daughter downstairs toward the flashing lights and concerned voices, was going to cost Kirk Maloney everything. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. Susan was asleep in the bed, and 4 drip-feeding fluids and counteragents for whatever cocktail of benzodiazepines Kirk had slipped in her wine. The doctor, a tired-looking woman in her 40s named Dr. Patel, had assured Gregory she'd be fine physically. Emotionally was another story. Sam Allen sat in the corner chair, laptop balanced on his knees, fingers flying over the keyboard. At 63, Sam looked more like a college professor than a former federal investigator, with his wire-rimmed glasses and perpetually rumpled shirts. But Gregory had worked with him for 20 years, trusted him more than anyone except Edith. "Tell me you found something," Gregory said, keeping his voice low so as not to wake Susan. Sam looked up, expression grim. "Found a lot of things. None of them good." He turned the laptop to show Gregory the screen. Kirk Maloney isn't even his real name. He's Kirk Dunham, born in Reno to Phil and Delia Dunham. Father's got a rap sheet as long as my arm. Mostly cons, fraud, couple of assault charges that got pleaded down. Mother died when Kirk was 12. After that, he bounced around foster care, group homes. Fell off the radar at 18, reappeared 5 years later as Kirk Maloney, with a clean record and a pharmaceutical sales job he definitely wasn't qualified for. Identity theft, more like identity creation. He bought the Maloney identity from someone, probably paid good money for it. Social Security number matches a Kirk Maloney who died in Denver when he was 3 months old. It's a good fake. Past background checks, credit checks, everything. Whoever set it up knew what they were doing. Gregory processed this, mind already working through implications. And Veronica Knox? Oh, she's real. Veronica Knox, 32, consultant for Blackstone Capital Equity. Except here's the interesting part. She's also Kirk's half-sister. That stopped Gregory cold. What? Different mothers, same father. Veronica's mother was one of Phil Dunham's many girlfriends. Got pregnant, had Veronica took off when the kid was 5. Veronica ended up with her maternal grandmother in Seattle, changed her last name to Knox, her grandmother's name. But Sam pulled up another document she and Kirk stayed in touch. Found correspondence going back 15 years. They've been running cons together since they were teenagers. Cons plural. At least 4 that I can confirm, probably more. They target women from upper-middle-class families. Kirk romances them. Veronica helps with the background work. They drain bank accounts, sometimes take out loans in the victims' names, then disappear. This isn't Kirk's first marriage, Gregory. It's his 4th. The rage Gregory had been carefully containing flared hot. 4 women. He's done this to 4 women that we know of. And he's gotten away with it every time because by the time the victims realize what's happened, Kirk and Veronica are gone. The money's laundered through offshore accounts, and there's no way to track them. They're smart, methodical, and they've got it down to a system. Gregory stood, paced to the window, looked out at the parking lot where the sun was just beginning to rise. His mind was racing through options, calculating angles. Susan's accounts. How much did they get? Everything. Checking, savings, the investment account you helped her set up, her 401k. They liquidated it, took the tax penalty. Total damage is about $340,000. It's all gone. Transferred through 3 different accounts, converted to cryptocurrency, then vanished. By now it's probably in some offshore account in the Caymans or Singapore. Can we trace it? Maybe. But it'll take months, cost a fortune in legal fees and investigator time. And even then, we'd probably only recover a fraction. Kirk and Veronica know how to hide money. They've done this before. Gregory turned back from the window. What about extradition? If we can prove where they are. Thailand doesn't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. for financial crimes. Even if we could prove they're there, which is a big if, we couldn't touch them. They picked their destination carefully. There has to be something. Wire fraud, identity theft, drugging Susan. That's assault, false imprisonment. All of which requires finding them first and getting them back on U.S. soil. And Kirk knows that. That's why he called you, Gregory. He wanted to rub it in. He knew he was untouchable. Gregory was silent for a long moment, staring at his daughter's sleeping form. She looked so young, so vulnerable. The same little girl who'd run to him when she scraped her knee, who'd called him crying after her first heartbreak, who'd trusted him to walk her down the aisle to a man she thought would protect her. And Gregory had failed her. He'd known something was wrong, had felt in his gut, and he'd ignored it because he couldn't prove it, because his background check came back clean, because Edith had told him he was being paranoid. There's more, Sam said quietly. I talked to a contact at the FBI. They've been aware of Kirk and Veronica for about 2 years. Have a file on them. But they can't make anything stick because the victims rarely press charges. Too embarrassed, too traumatized. And the ones who do, Kirk and Veronica are already gone. They have a file, and they didn't do anything. Without victims willing to testify, without evidence, what can they do? White-collar crime is hard to prosecute, even with cooperation. Without it, Sam shrugged helplessly. Gregory wanted to rage, to break something, to drive to Thailand and drag Kirk Maloney back by his throat. But that kind of hot anger wouldn't help Susan. What she needed now was cold, calculated justice. The kind Gregory had built his career on. I want everything, he said finally. Every piece of information you can find on Kirk Dunham, Veronica Knox, Phil Dunham, their associates, their patterns, their previous victims. I want to know where they've been, where they're likely to go, how they move money, who helps them. Everything. Sam studied him carefully. Gregory, what are you planning? Kirk made a mistake when he called me. He showed me his work, Sam. He laid out his entire operation like a criminal who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. And you know what happens to criminals like that? They get cocky. They get sloppy. And when they get sloppy, they make mistakes. And I'm going to be watching for those mistakes. Gregory pulled up a chair next to Sam, lowered his voice. How many cases did we close together? How many times did we take someone who thought they were untouchable and put them away? Gregory, this is different. This is personal. And Kirk isn't some mob enforcer or corrupt official. He's a criminal who hurt my daughter. And I've spent 32 years learning exactly how to destroy criminals. Gregory's voice was quiet but steel hard. I'm not talking about legal channels, Sam. I'm talking about something else. Something they won't see coming. Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then, tell me what you need. Susan woke 3 hours later. Edith was there by then, had been crying quietly in the corner while Gregory filled her in on what Sam had discovered. When Susan's eyes opened, Edith was at her side immediately, gripping her hand, murmuring reassurances. Gregory hung back, let his wife handle the immediate comfort. He watched his daughter's face as the memories came flooding back, saw the moment she remembered everything. The timeline on the wall, Kirk's betrayal, the hours spent bound and drugged in a closet, while her husband fled the country with her money and his sister lover. Dad, her voice was small, broken. He moved to the other side of the bed, took her free hand. I'm here, sweetheart. He's gone, isn't he? Really gone. For now. Susan's laugh was bitter, edges sharp with hysteria. For now? Dad, he took everything. Everything. My savings, my retirement, the down payment I'd been saving for a house. 3 years of my life. He made me feel crazy when I questioned him, made me doubt my own instincts. And I just let him. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? The shout was raw, years of suppressed doubt and fear erupting. You tried to warn me. You didn't like him from the start, and I told you that you were being paranoid, that you needed to trust my judgment. And you were right. You were right the whole time. Gregory squeezed her hand harder. Susan, listen to me. Kirk Dunham, is a professional. This is what he does. He's done it to at least 3 other women before you. He's trained for this, spent his whole life learning how to manipulate and deceive. You're not stupid for trusting him. You're human. He called you, she said, tears streaming down her face. He called you at 3 a.m. just to laugh about it. What kind of person does that? The kind that gets cocky, Gregory said. The kind that makes mistakes. What mistakes? He's gone, Dad. He's in Thailand or somewhere with no extradition, probably on a beach right now laughing about how he destroyed my life. What mistake did he make? Gregory looked at his daughter, at her tear-stained face and broken expression, and made a decision. He showed me his hand, Susan. He laid out his entire operation, documented everything, left evidence everywhere. And he did it because he thought he was untouchable. But that kind of arrogance always leads to a fall. Always. You can't prosecute him from Thailand. No, Gregory agreed. I can't. But I can do something else. Edith looked up sharply. Gregory. He held up a hand. Susan, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She searched his face, and Gregory saw something shift in her expression. The broken victim was still there, but beneath it, something harder was crystallizing. Something that looked like her father's determination. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure Kirk Dunham regrets ever hearing the name Johnson. I'm going to take everything he thinks he's won and turn it into his worst nightmare. And I'm going to make sure he pays for what he did to you and to every other woman he's destroyed. Ow! Gregory smiled, and it was the smile that had made defense attorneys nervous in courtrooms across the state. By being better at his game than he is. By using every resource, every connection, every skill I've developed over 32 years of putting away criminals. And by doing it in a way he'll never see coming. Susan was silent for a long moment. Then, I want to help. Susan, you need a rest. No. Her voice was stronger now, the steel in it familiar. She was her father's daughter after all. He took 3 years of my life, Dad. He made me doubt myself, isolated me from my friends, made me feel worthless. And then he drugged me and left me in a closet like garbage while he ran off with his sister. I'm not just going to lie here and be a victim. If you're going after him, I want in. Gregory looked at Edith, saw his own conflict reflected in her face. This was dangerous territory they were entering. But then he looked back at Susan and saw something he hadn't seen in months. Fire. Purpose. His daughter, fighting back. Okay, he said finally. But we do this smart. We do this careful. And we do this right. What's the first step? We build a case. Not a legal case. They're beyond that. We build a profile. We learn everything about Kirk and Veronica. We find their patterns, their weaknesses, their pressure points. And then we find a way to exploit them. And then Gregory's smile turned cold. And then we show Kirk Dunham what happens when you underestimate a federal prosecutor and his daughter. Outside the hospital window, the sun was fully up now, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. A new day, a fresh start, or Gregory thought, the beginning of something much more interesting. The hunt had begun. Sam's house was a modest ranch in the suburbs, but his basement was something else entirely. A command center that would make most FBI field offices jealous. Multiple monitors lined one wall, filing cabinets full of old case files filled another, and a massive corkboard dominated the back wall. Currently empty, but ready for the web of connections Gregory knew they'd soon be mapping. It had been 4 days since the hospital. Susan was staying with Gregory and Edith, recovering physically but channeling her emotional trauma into something productive. She'd spent the last 72 hours going through every document, every email, every text message from her relationship with Kirk, looking for clues they might have missed. Now the three of them sat in Sam's basement while the investigator pulled up document after document on the main screen. Okay, Sam said, let's start with what we know for certain. Kirk Dunham, age 34, born Kirk Philip Dunham in Reno, Nevada. Mother overdosed when he was 12. Father Phil Dunham is career criminal, currently serving 8 to 12 in Nevada State Prison for fraud and assault. Kirk entered the foster system, bounced between homes, aged out at 18. What happened between 18 and 23? Gregory asked. That's when he resurfaced as Kirk Maloney. Best I can tell, he learned a family business. I found some sealed juvenile records, took some creative research to access, showing Kirk ran cons even as a teenager. Small stuff mostly. Credit card fraud, identity theft, catfishing lonely women online for money. He was good at it. Never got caught with anything that stuck. Sam pulled up a new screen showing a series of photographs. At 23, he surfaces in Denver as Kirk Maloney. Clean background, good job references, the whole package. And that's when he met Veronica Knox for the first time in years. Publicly, anyway. I think they'd been planning this for a while. His sister, Susan said, her voice tight. I still can't believe they're sleeping together. They're half-siblings, and it's a con, Gregory said gently. Maybe the relationship started as genuine and twisted into this, or maybe it's all just part of their game. Either way, it's not about actual attraction. It's about the con. Everything with Kirk is about the con. Sam nodded. I've been tracking their pattern. They target women in their 20s and 30s, usually with stable careers and family money. They prefer women who are somewhat isolated, new to a city, recently out of a relationship, focused on career. Women who might be lonely, might be looking for connection. That was me, Susan said quietly. I just moved back after grad school. Most of my friends had scattered. I was working 70-hour weeks, trying to prove myself. When Kirk showed up, it felt like someone finally saw me. That's the hook, Sam said. Kirk makes you feel special, understood, valued. He mirrors your interests, your values. He becomes exactly what you're looking for. And while he's doing that, Veronica is running background checks, accessing financial records, building a complete picture of what you're worth. He pulled up more screens, spreadsheets, bank records, timelines. After Kirk and Veronica left Denver, they hit Phoenix, then Portland, then here. Each time, same pattern. Kirk courts a woman, marries her within a year, spends 6 to 12 months consolidating assets, then disappears. The women are left with nothing. No money, no dignity, and usually too embarrassed or traumatized to pursue legal action. But you said there were victims who did press charges? Gregory asked. 2. Both cases went nowhere because by the time the victims decided to fight back, Kirk and Veronica were long gone and the money was untraceable. The FBI has a file, but no resources to dedicate to what they consider a low-priority case. White-collar crime against individuals doesn't rate high when they're dealing with terrorism and organized crime. Gregory leaned back in his chair, processing. So they've perfected the system. Hit a target, extract maximum value. Disappear before consequences can catch up. Clean, efficient, virtually risk-free. Exactly. And the beauty of it is, even if one victim does fight back, they just move to a new city, new identities, new targets. They've been doing this for over a decade. They're good at it. Then why the phone call? Susan asked. Why did Kirk call Dad? If they're so careful, so methodical, why take that risk? It was a good question, and Gregory had been thinking about it constantly. Ego, he said finally. Kirk got cocky. He's gotten away with this for so long that he thinks he's untouchable. And he wanted me to know it. Wanted to rub it in my face that he outsmarted us all. That tracks with his psychological profile, Sam said. I've been reading up on con artists, and Kirk fits the narcissistic pattern perfectly. He needs the validation, needs to prove he's smarter than everyone else. That phone call wasn't just cruel, it was a meeting to show off. Which means he'll do it again, Gregory said, a plan beginning to form. He'll want to keep proving how clever he is. He'll want us to know we can't touch him. How does that help us? Susan asked. Gregory stood, moved to the empty corkboard, picked up a marker. Because ego is a weakness. And if Kirk keeps trying to prove how smart he is, he'll eventually make a mistake big enough for us to exploit. He started drawing connections on the board. We know his pattern. We know his psychology. We know his partner. What we need now is leverage. What kind of leverage? Sam asked. The kind that makes staying in Thailand less appealing than they think. Gregory wrote Phil Dunham. On the board, circled it. Sam, you said Kirk's father is in Nevada State Prison? Yeah, serving 8 to 12 for a fraud scheme that went south. Why? Because everyone has pressure points. And for a con artist, family is usually one of them, even if that family is also criminal. Gregory turned to face them. I need to know everything about Phil Dunham. His associates, his enemies, his debts, his connections. If Kirk and Veronica are sending money back to support him, that's a trail. If they're planning to get him out early, that's leverage. Find me something I can use. Sam was already typing. I'll dig into Phil's prison records, visitor logs, commissary accounts, phone calls. If there's a connection between Kirk and his father, I'll find it. Good. Susan, I need you to go through Kirk's personal effects. Anything he left at the house. Look for patterns in his behavior. Where did he like to go? What did he do online? Did he have any habits or routines that might tell us something about how he thinks? Susan nodded, jaw set with determination. The house is still technically mine until the divorce is finalized. I can go through everything. Do it carefully. Document everything. Take photos. We might not be building a legal case, but we need to be thorough. Gregory turned back to the board, added more names, more connections. Veronica Knox. Sam, what about her? Any vulnerabilities? She's cleaner than Kirk, actually. No criminal record at all. Not even sealed juveniles. She's maintained her Blackstone capital job throughout all of this. They don't know she's anything other than a legitimate consultant. Pays her taxes, has a nice apartment, drives an expensive car. On paper, she's a successful professional woman, which means she has more to lose than Kirk, Gregory said. Kirk's already burned his identity once. He can do it again. But Veronica has built a legitimate life alongside the con. She has social media, professional connections, a reputation. That's exploitable. How? Susan asked. Gregory smiled. By making the con public. By exposing who she really is in a way that destroys everything she's built. If we can prove her connection to Kirk's cons, show her employers and her professional network that she's a fraud, she loses her cover. And without that cover, the con falls apart. You want to ruin her life, Susan said. It wasn't a question. I want to make the consequences real, Gregory replied. They've been operating in the shadows for years, counting on victims being too ashamed or traumatized to fight back. But if we shine a light on them, if we make their operation public knowledge, they lose their most valuable asset, anonymity. Sam was nodding slowly. It could work, but we need proof. Hard evidence connecting Veronica to all of Kirk's previous cons. And we need it to be bulletproof because the moment we move, they'll lawyer up. Then we start gathering evidence. Sam, contact the previous victims. Tell them we're building a case. Not legal, but public. See if they're willing to talk, willing to share their stories. Maybe individually they didn't have enough, but together we have a pattern, Sam finished. Yeah, I can do that. Some of them might still be too traumatized, but others might want payback as much as Susan does. Gregory looked at his daughter, saw the determination in her face, the steel that had replaced the broken victim from 4 days ago. Susan, this won't be easy. It's going to mean reliving everything Kirk did to you. Facing it publicly. Are you sure you want to do this? I've never been more sure of anything, she said. Kirk thought he broke me. Thought he could just throw me away like garbage. I want him to know he was wrong. Okay. Gregory turned back to the board, started mapping out their strategy. We have 3 goals. First, gather enough evidence to publicly expose Kirk and Veronica's operation. Second, find leverage that forces them to make a mistake or come out of hiding. Third, make sure they pay for what they've done. Maybe not in a courtroom, but somewhere that hurts just as much. What's our timeline? Sam asked. As long as it takes to do it right. Kirk thinks he's won. He thinks he's safe in Thailand, untouchable. That's his mistake. Because while he's on a beach somewhere celebrating, we're going to be systematically destroying everything he thinks he's built. Gregory stepped back from the board, surveyed their plan, felt that old prosecutor's thrill, the hunt, the chase, the moment when all the pieces clicked into place and the walls closed in on someone who thought they were too clever to be caught. Kirk Dunham wanted to play games, he said quietly. So let's play. But by my rules this time. Outside, night was falling. Inside Sam's basement, surrounded by evidence and determination, Gregory Johnson began building the case that would destroy his son-in-law piece by piece. And somewhere in Thailand, Kirk Dunham had no idea that the old man he'd mocked was about to become his worst nightmare. 3 weeks later, Gregory sat in a coffee shop in downtown Seattle, waiting. Across from him, a woman named Shirley Donnelly nervously stirred her latte, avoiding eye contact. She was 38, worked in pharmaceutical advertising, and 3 years ago, she'd been married to a man named Kirk Maloney for exactly 8 months before he disappeared with $280,000 of her money. I don't know what you think I can tell you, Shirley said finally. Her voice was tight, controlled. I already gave a statement to the police. Nothing came of it. I'm not the police, Gregory said gently. And I'm not asking you to relive this for a legal case. I'm asking because Kirk did the same thing to my daughter that he did to you. And I think together, we can make sure he pays for it. Shirley's eyes finally met his, and Gregory saw the same anger he felt burning there. Your daughter, the one in the news. Gregory nodded. Susan's story had made the local papers after Gregory quietly tipped off a journalist friend. Local woman drugged and robbed by husband had been the headline. They hadn't named Kirk yet. That was coming, but Susan had agreed to go public with her story to be the face of this fight. She's brave, Shirley said. I couldn't do that. Couldn't face people knowing how stupid I'd been. You weren't stupid. Kirk is a professional. This is what he does. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, Shirley laughed bitterly. I spent 2 years in therapy trying to rebuild my self-worth after what he did. I trusted him completely, gave him access to everything, and he just took it all and laughed about it. Did he call you? Afterward. Shirley looked surprised. How did you know? Because he called me. At 3 a.m. To gloat. Gregory pulled out his phone, showed her the timeline Sam had built. Kirk has done this to at least 4 women that we know of. You, my daughter, a woman named Betty James in Phoenix, and a woman named Rose Hughes in Portland. Same pattern every time. And every time, he disappears and faces no consequences. So what changed? Me, Gregory said simply. I'm not willing to let him get away with it. And I think if we work together, all of Kirk's victims, everyone he's hurt, we can expose him in a way that destroys his entire operation. Shirley studied the timeline, her expression hardening. Who else is involved? You said there were other victims? I've contacted everyone I could find. Betty is willing to talk. Rose is still deciding. But I'm hoping with enough victims coming forward, we can build something bigger than any individual case. What do you mean by expose him? Gregory leaned forward. I mean, we go public. We tell the whole story. Who Kirk really is, who his partner is, how they operate, every victim they've created. We make them so publicly toxic that they can't run this con anymore. We destroy their anonymity, their reputation, their ability to ever do this again. That won't get our money back. No, Gregory admitted. It won't, but it will make sure they can never hurt anyone else. And it will show Kirk that he didn't win. That the women he thought he destroyed are stronger than he ever imagined. Shirley was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee. Then, tell me what you need from me. Over the next hour, Gregory recorded Shirley's story. The whirlwind romance, the quick marriage, the slow isolation from friends and family, the gradual financial consolidation, the drug wine, the discovery that everything was gone. The phone call afterward where Kirk laughed and told her she should have been smarter. It was Susan's story, almost word for word. Kirk had refined his method to a science. There's one more thing, Shirley said as they were wrapping up. I don't know if it matters, but after Kirk left, I did some digging on my own. Hired a private investigator, spent money I couldn't really afford. He found something odd. What? Kirk had a storage unit, under the Maloney name, paid up for 5 years in advance. My investigator got inside, don't ask how, and found boxes of documents. Records from previous cons, fake IDs, burner phones. It was like he kept trophies or something. Gregory's heart rate kicked up. Do you still have access to this storage unit? The investigator took photos of everything before the storage company changed the locks. I have them on a hard drive at home. Surely, I need those photos. That's evidence, real, tangible evidence connecting Kirk to multiple crimes. She nodded slowly. I'll email them to you. On one condition. Name it. When you take him down, I want to see it. I want to watch him lose everything the way he made me lose everything. Can you promise me that? Gregory extended his hand. You have my word. They shook, and Gregory saw something in Shirley's expression shift. From victim to survivor, from broken to determined. It was the same shift he'd seen in Susan. Kirk Dunham had made a crucial mistake. He'd assumed his victims would stay victims. The photos from the storage unit were a goldmine. Sam spent 2 days going through them, cross-referencing with the victims they'd identified, building a comprehensive picture of Kirk and Veronica's operation. This is better than I hoped, Sam said, pulling up image after image on the main screen. Kirk kept records of everything. Names, dates, amounts stolen, methods used. It's like he was documenting his own success. Or insurance, Gregory said, in case Veronica ever turned on him, or vice versa. Either way, it's evidence we can use. Look at this, Sam zoomed in on a spreadsheet. Kirk tracked every dollar. Where it came from, where it went, how much was his versus Veronica's split. He even has notes on what worked and what didn't for each victim. Susan was reading over Sam's shoulder, her expression darkening with each revelation. He called me Target 6. That's what I was to him. A target with a dollar value next to my name. Target 6, Gregory repeated, which means there are at least 2 more victims we haven't found yet. Already on it, Sam said, pulling up more files. Target 4 was a woman named Dolores Lara in San Diego. Target 5 was Catherine Alexander in Sacramento. I've got contact information for both. We should reach out. Gregory nodded. Let's build this network. Every victim, every story, every piece of evidence. We're building something Kirk can't defend against. His phone rang. Unknown number. Gregory answered cautiously. Hello. Gregory Johnson. The voice was female, professional, unfamiliar. Speaking. My name is Amanda McDermott. I'm an investigative journalist with the Seattle Post. I've been following your daughter's story, and I'd like to talk to you about Kirk Maloney. Gregory's mind raced. They deliberately leaked Susan's story to local news, but Amanda McDermott was different. She was a national journalist known for exposing financial crimes and corporate corruption. If she was interested, this could be bigger than he'd planned. What's your interest in Kirk Maloney, Ms. McDermott? I've been tracking a pattern of romance fraud cases across the western U.S. for about 6 months. Your daughter's case caught my attention because it fits a profile I've been building. But when I started digging, I found something interesting. Kirk Maloney doesn't exist. At least, not before 5 years ago. Which made me wonder who he really is and how many other women he's victimized. That's quite an investigation for one reporter. I'm not just one reporter, Mr. Johnson. I have a team, and I have resources. If Kirk Maloney, or whoever he really is, has been running cons for as long as I think he has, this is a national story. The kind that wins awards and, more importantly, protects future victims. Gregory considered carefully. Bringing in a journalist could accelerate their timeline, but it also meant losing some control over the narrative. On the other hand, Amanda McDermott had reach they didn't. I might have some information that would interest you, he said finally. On one condition. Name it. My daughter gets to be part of this story. She's not just a victim. She's a survivor who's fighting back. And any article you write needs to show that. I can work with that. When can we meet? Give me 2 days. I'm gathering some additional evidence. Then we'll talk. After he hung up, Susan was staring at him. Are you sure about this? Bringing in a journalist? Amanda McDermott has a national platform and a reputation for thorough, damaging exposés. If we give her everything we have, she can make Kirk and Veronica famous in all the wrong ways. Public exposure is part of our strategy anyway. This just accelerates it. And once we expose them publicly, Sam asked, then we wait for Kirk's ego to push him into making a mistake, Gregory said. Because the one thing I know about narcissists is they can't stand being called out publicly. They have to defend themselves, have to prove they're smarter than everyone else. You think Kirk will respond? I'm counting on it. Gregory turned back to the board, added Amanda McDermott's name to the web of connections. And when he does, we'll be ready. Amanda McDermott's article ran on the front page of the Seattle Post digital edition 4 weeks after Gregory first found Susan in that closet. The headline read, "The Marriage Con: How a Criminal Couple Has Been Destroying Lives for Over a Decade." The article was devastating. Amanda had interviewed Susan, Shirley, Betty, and Rose, 4 of Kirk's victims, each telling remarkably similar stories. She'd obtained photos from the storage unit, verified Kirk's real identity, connected Veronica Knox to the scheme, and traced their pattern across multiple states. But the real damage was in the details. Amanda had found 2 more victims Gregory hadn't known about, targets 4 and 5, bringing the total to 6 confirmed women Kirk had destroyed. She'd documented the amount stolen, the methods used, the psychological manipulation. She'd even included excerpts from Kirk's own notes, his cold calculations of how much each target was worth. And she'd included photos. Kirk and Veronica together, images pulled from social media before they'd scrubbed their accounts. Susan's wedding photo, with Kirk's charming smile and Susan's hopeful eyes. The guest room timeline laid out like a murder board. The article went viral within hours. National news picked it up. Social media exploded with outrage. Veronica Knox's employer, Blackstone Capital, issued a statement saying they were investigating the allegations. Kirk and Veronica's faces were suddenly everywhere, attached to words like con artists, sociopaths, predators. Gregory watched it spread from Sam's basement. Susan beside him, both of them tracking social media reactions in real time. There, Susan said, pointing to a tweet from Blackstone Capital. They just put Veronica on administrative leave pending investigation. That's the first domino, Gregory said. Now we wait for the others to fall. They didn't have to wait long. 24 hours after the article dropped, Gregory's phone rang. Unknown international number. He let it ring 3 times, making sure the call recording software Sam had set up was working. Then he answered. Gregory Johnson, you son of a bitch. Kirk's voice was tight with rage. All pretense of charm stripped away. You think you're clever? You think this article changes anything? Hello, Kirk. Or should I call you Kirk Dunham? It's nice to hear from you again. Fuck you. You realize what you've done? You made me a public figure. Congratulations. You've accomplished nothing except making me famous. Is that why you're calling? To congratulate me? I'm calling to remind you that I'm still in Thailand. Still untouchable. Still rich with your daughter's money. All you've done is make my life slightly more inconvenient. Gregory smiled, even though Kirk couldn't see it. Slightly more inconvenient? Kirk, let me tell you what that article has accomplished. Veronica Knox is about to lose her job. Her social media is flooded with people calling her out. Her professional reputation is destroyed. The FBI has reopened their investigation into your operation. And every woman you've ever conned now knows exactly who you are and what you did. So what? I'm still here. Still free. For now. But here's the thing about public exposure, Kirk. It creates pressure. Pressure from employers, from law enforcement, from victims looking for justice. Veronica can't go back to her old life. You can't run your con anymore. Your faces are too well known. We'll just start over somewhere else. New identities, new names. It's what we do. Is it? Because I looked into what it costs to build a quality identity package these days. $30,000 to $50,000 minimum for something that'll pass serious scrutiny. And you're going to need two of them. Plus relocation costs, setting up new lives, new backgrounds. That adds up quickly. There was a pause. Gregory could hear Kirk breathing on the other end, could almost picture him calculating. What's your point, old man? My point is that article cost you something. Maybe not your freedom, not yet, but it cost you your anonymity, your future marks, Veronica's legitimate career. And it's only going to get worse. Because I'm not done. Not done. Kirk laughed, but it sounded forced. What else can you possibly do? You played your hand. You exposed us. Now what? Now I make sure you can never do this again. To anyone. I'm going to systematically dismantle every resource you have, every safety net, every backup plan. And I'm going to do it slowly enough that you feel it happening, but can't stop it. Big talk from a retired prosecutor with no jurisdiction. Who said anything about jurisdiction? I'm not working within the system anymore, Kirk. I'm working around it. And that makes me a lot more dangerous than you seem to realize. Another pause. Then, you're bluffing. Am I? Let me tell you what else I found out. Your father, Phil Dunham, is up for parole in 3 months. You've been sending him money through a series of intermediaries, haven't you? Commissary deposits, lawyer fees, setting up a nest egg for when he gets out. That's a financial trail, Kirk. One I can follow. One I can expose. You leave my father out of this. Or what? You'll come back to the States and stop me? Please do. I'd love that. Gregory's voice hardened. You thought you could destroy my daughter and just walk away. You thought calling me at 3 a.m. to gloat would be the end of it. But you underestimated what a father will do when someone hurts his child. This isn't over, Kirk said, voice low and dangerous. No, Gregory agreed. It's not. But it will be. And when it is, you're going to wish you'd never heard the name Johnson. He hung up before Kirk could respond. Sam was staring at him. You think that'll work? Threatening his father's parole? I think Kirk's ego won't let this stand. He needs to prove he's smarter than me. And when he tries, he'll make a mistake. Gregory stood, moved to the board, added new notes. Sam, I need you to dig into Phil Dunham's parole hearing. Find out who's on the board, what factors they consider, whether financial support from a known con artisan would impact their decision. You're actually going to try to block his father's parole? I'm going to use every legal lever I have to make Kirk's life as difficult as possible. His father is leverage. Veronica's career is leverage. Their public exposure is leverage. And I'm going to keep applying pressure until something breaks. What if nothing breaks? Susan asked quietly. Gregory looked at his daughter, saw the determination still burning in her eyes, but also the exhaustion. Then we get creative. Kirk and Veronica can't stay in Thailand forever. Eventually they'll run out of money or get bored or want to run their con again. And when they surface, we'll be watching. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You just made a very big mistake. V. Gregory showed it to Sam and Susan. Veronica's rattled too. Good. They're both going to come after you now, Sam warned. You've made them public enemies. They won't just accept that. I'm counting on it, Gregory said. Angry people make mistakes. Desperate people make bigger ones. And Kirk and Veronica are about to become both. The war had begun, and Gregory Johnson was playing for keeps. The response came 3 days later, but not in any form Gregory expected. He was in his home office, reviewing the latest update from Sam about Phil Dunham's parole hearing, when his email chimed. The sender was KTRUTHDLLER@protonmail.com, and the subject line read, You want the truth about your precious daughter? Gregory's hand hovered over the mouse. This was almost certainly from Kirk or Veronica, probably loaded with malware or some attempt at intimidation. But his curiosity won out. He opened it in a sandbox browser, ready for anything. What he found was worse than malware. The email contained a link to a private video hosting site. Against his better judgment, Gregory clicked it. The video showed Susan, unmistakably Susan, in what looked like their bedroom from a house she'd shared with Kirk. She was crying, yelling, throwing things. The camera angle suggested it was hidden, probably recording without her knowledge. The timestamp dated it to about 6 months ago. Kirk's voice came from off camera, calm and reasonable. Susan, Please, you need to calm down. This isn't healthy. Healthy? You're gaslighting me. You're controlling my bank accounts, monitoring my phone, isolating me from my family, and you're calling me unhealthy? I'm trying to protect you. You have impulse control problems, spending issues. Your father even warned me about it before we got married. That's a lie. Dad never said that. Susan, I love you, but you're not thinking clearly. Maybe we should get you some help. Professional help. The video cut off. Below was text. Your daughter is mentally unstable. Has been for years. I have hours of footage like this showing her violent outbursts, her paranoid accusations, her inability to manage her own finances. When I realized she was a danger to herself, I tried to get her help. Instead, she's convinced you that I'm the bad guy. Check your facts, old man. Your daughter isn't the victim you think she is. Okay. Gregory stared at the screen, feeling cold rage flood through him. It was masterfully done. The video was real, Susan's distress was real, but the context was completely fabricated. Kirk had probably spent months gaslighting Susan, driving her to the breaking point, then recorded her reactions to use as ammunition later. He forwarded the email to Sam with a note. Need this traced and analyzed ASAP. Then he went to find Susan, who was in the kitchen with Edith, both of them looking at news coverage of Veronica Knox's formal termination from Blackstone Capital. Susan, I need to show you something. It's not going to be easy. Her face fell. What do they do now? Gregory played the video for her. He watched her expression shift from confusion to recognition to horror as she realized what she was seeing. That was the night he told me he'd hired a private investigator to follow me, she said quietly. He said I was cheating on him, that he had proof. He'd been monitoring my phone, reading my messages, tracking my location. When I confronted him about it, he told me I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things. I lost it because I knew I wasn't crazy, but he kept insisting I was. Classic Darvo, Edith said, her voice tight. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. He creates the situation that makes you react, then uses your reaction as proof you're unstable. Gregory nodded. He recorded this knowing he might need it someday. Probably has hours of similar footage. He's trying to discredit you before you can testify or go further public. Will it work? Susan asked. Not if we get ahead of it. Gregory was already texting Amanda McDermott. Abusers use this tactic all the time. The key is to provide context. Sam's already analyzing the video. I guarantee he'll find evidence of editing, of setup. And we can get expert testimony about gaslighting and abuse tactics. His phone rang. Amanda McDermott. I just got the same video, she said without preamble. Kirk sent it to me, to the Post, and probably to every other news outlet that ran the original story. He's trying to flip the narrative. Can he? Not with what I'm seeing. This screams abuse tactics. But I need Susan to be willing to talk about it publicly, to explain what was really happening in that video. Gregory looked at his daughter. She'd gone pale, but her jaw was set with that familiar determination. I'll do it, Susan said. I'll tell the truth about what he did to me. Amanda's follow-up article ran 2 days later. The Marriage Con, Part 2, Understanding Psychological Abuse and Darvo Tactics. It was a deep dive into Kirk's manipulation strategies, featuring Susan's first-person account of the gaslighting, the isolation, the hidden cameras, the manufactured situations designed to make her react badly, so he could later use those reactions against her. Amanda had also consulted with 3 psychologists who specialized in abusive relationships. They analyzed the video Kirk had sent and pointed out all the red flags. Susan's genuine distress, Kirk's calculated calm, the way he subtly shifted blame while appearing reasonable. This is textbook Darvo, one expert noted. The abuser creates a situation of abuse, waits for the victim to react, then uses that reaction to paint themselves as the actual victim. It's a powerful manipulation tactic because the victim's genuine distress looks irrational when stripped of context. The article included timeline evidence showing how Kirk had systematically isolated Susan from friends and family, controlled her finances for her own good, monitored her communications, and created an environment of constant surveillance and second-guessing. Public reaction was swift and even more sympathetic than before. Kirk's attempt to discredit Susan had backfired spectacularly. Social media turned even harder against him and Veronica. The hashtag I stand with Susan trended nationally. But the real impact came from somewhere Gregory hadn't expected. 3 days after the second article, a law firm in Thailand contacted him. They represented Veronica Knox, who wanted to negotiate. Gregory sat in Sam's basement, listening to the Thai lawyer explain via video call that Veronica was reconsidering her involvement in the situation. "My client feels she has been unfairly portrayed," the lawyer said in careful English. "She wishes to clarify that she was not an active participant in any criminal activities, merely a bystander who has been dragged into a situation by her half-brother." Her half-brother? Gregory kept his face neutral. The same half-brother she's been running cons with for over a decade. My client disputes that characterization. She maintains she was unaware of Mr. Dunham's activities until recently. That's an interesting claim, considering we have documentary evidence of her involvement in at least 6 separate cons, including spreadsheets with her name on them showing her share of the stolen money. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "My client is prepared to provide testimony against Mr. Dunham in exchange for immunity from prosecution." There it was. The crack Gregory had been waiting for. Veronica was trying to save herself by throwing Kirk under the bus. "Tell your client I'll consider her offer, but I'll need something concrete first, proof she's serious. Names, dates, financial records, everything she knows about Kirk's operation. My client is concerned about retaliation from Mr. Dunham. Then she should probably make sure he's in custody before she testifies against him. Shouldn't she?" Gregory let that sink in. "Here's my offer. Veronica provides me with everything, and I mean everything, she knows about Kirk Dunham's criminal activities. In exchange, I'll work with federal prosecutors to see what kind of deal we can arrange. But she doesn't get immunity until Kirk is in custody on U.S. soil." The lawyer started to object, but Gregory cut him off. "Those are my terms. Your client has 24 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires and she gets prosecuted right alongside Kirk." He ended the call and sat back, mind racing through implications. "You think she'll take it?" Sam asked. "She's already talking to lawyers, which means she's scared. The public exposure destroyed her career and her reputation. She's got nothing left to lose by cooperating, except Kirk's retaliation. But if we can get Kirk first." "That's a big if," Susan said. "How we get Kirk back to the U.S.? Gregory smiled. "We use the one weakness every narcissistic con artist has, which is their ego. Kirk can't stand that we've publicly humiliated him, can't stand that his own partner is about to turn on him, and he definitely can't stand that a retired old man has outmaneuvered him at every turn." Gregory pulled up his email, started typing. "So we're going to challenge him directly." "That's insane," Sam said. "He'll never come back voluntarily." "Won't he? Think about it. Kirk's trapped in Thailand with Veronica about to testify against him, his reputation destroyed, his father's parole in jeopardy, and his ego screaming that he needs to prove he's still smarter than everyone else. If I challenge him to face me directly, to prove his innocence, to clear his name, to show he's not the coward everyone thinks he is, he might just take the bait." Gregory finished typing the email, an open letter to Kirk Dunham, to be published in the Seattle Post. "Kirk, you spent our entire conflict hiding behind screens and international borders, sending videos and threats while staying safely beyond reach. You've told everyone you're smarter than me, that you've won, that you're untouchable. But here's the truth. You're a coward. You prey on women who trust you, then run when consequences arrive. You've never faced a real challenge in your life because you've never had the courage. So here's my challenge. Come back to Seattle. Face me. Prove you're not the pathetic con artist everyone knows you are. Or spend the rest of your life knowing that a retired old man beat you at your own game while you hid in Thailand like the coward you are. The choice is yours." Gregory Johnson. He showed it to Sam and Susan. "He'll never fall for that," Susan said. "Maybe not," Gregory agreed. "But it doesn't matter if he responds or not. Either he stays in Thailand and lives with being called a coward publicly, which will eat him alive, or he tries to prove he's not scared, which gets it back on U.S. soil where we can move against him. Either way, we win. Sam was nodding slowly. It's a psych play. You're betting that his narcissism won't let him ignore a direct challenge. Exactly. And even if Kirk doesn't bite, it puts more public pressure on him. Makes the narrative about his cowardice instead of his cleverness. Shifts the conversation. Gregory sent the letter to Amanda McDermott with a note. Ready for part 3? The open letter published the next day. Social media exploded again, this time with people debating whether Kirk would respond. The consensus was he'd be stupid to come back. But Gregory knew better. He'd seen too many criminals destroyed by their own pride. The response came at 2:47 a.m. Of course it did. Kirk loved his dramatic timing. Gregory was awake, had been expecting it. His phone buzzed with an email from KTRUTHDLLER again. You want to meet face to face, old man? Fine. But not in Seattle, where you have home field advantage. Neutral territory. Vancouver, Canada. 3 days from now. Just you and me. No lawyers, no press. We settle this like men. Or are you the coward? K. Gregory read it twice, feeling that prosecutors thrill. Kirk had taken a bait, but he tried to maintain some control by choosing the location, by setting terms. Gregory responded immediately. Vancouver works. But I'm bringing my daughter. She deserves to face you. And I'm recording everything for legal purposes. If you're truly innocent like you claim, you should have no problem with that. Day after tomorrow, 2 p.m., Fairmont Hotel lobby. Don't be late. G. He forwarded the exchange to Sam with instructions to book flights and hotels, to coordinate with Canadian authorities, to set up surveillance and backup plans. Then he went to wake Susan. He took the bait, Gregory said. We're going to Vancouver. Susan was instantly awake. He agreed to meet you? Us. I told him you were coming too. I want him to see what you've become. Not the broken victim he left behind, but the woman who helped destroy his entire operation. What if this is a trap? What if he's planning something? Then we'll be ready. Sam's coordinating with local police. We'll have backup, and we're not going anywhere alone. But Kirk isn't planning violence. That's not his style. He wants to prove he's smarter than us. Wants to show he's still in control. And you're going to let him think that right up until you spring whatever trap you're planning. Gregory smiled. Now you're thinking like a prosecutor. Vancouver was cold and drizzly when Gregory, Susan, and Sam arrived 2 days later. They coordinated with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who were willing to provide surveillance support, but couldn't arrest Kirk without a valid international warrant, and the U.S. didn't have one that would hold up in Canadian courts yet. But Veronica's testimony might change that. The Thai lawyer had sent over preliminary documents, financial records, communications, plans, enough to suggest she was serious about cooperating. The FBI was reviewing it all, building a case. Gregory's plan was simple. Get Kirk on camera admitting enough for the FBI to secure a proper warrant, then work with Canadian authorities to extradite him. If Kirk stayed in character, his ego would make him want to brag about how clever he'd been. They set up in the Fairmont Hotel lobby at 1:45 p.m. Gregory had a concealed recording device, as did Susan and Sam. 2 RCMP officers were posing as hotel guests nearby. Amanda McDermott was in the hotel restaurant with a camera crew, ready to document everything. Kirk Dunham walked in at exactly 2 p.m. He looked different than in the wedding photos. Thinner, tanner, wearing expensive clothes that probably came from Susan's money. But his smile was the same. Too many teeth, practiced charm, eyes calculating every angle. He spotted them and walked over with casual confidence, like they were old friends meeting for coffee rather than victim and predator about to collide. Gregory, Susan. He nodded to each of them. You both look well. I appreciate you making the trip. Let's skip the pleasantries, Gregory said. You wanted to meet. Here we are. Talk. Kirk sat down in the chair across from them, leaned back, perfectly relaxed. I'm here because I'm tired of being painted as the villain in your little revenge narrative. Everything I did was legal. Susan and I had a marriage. It didn't work out. We're getting divorced. Happens every day. You drugged me and left me tied up in a closet, Susan said, her voice steady despite the tremor Gregory heard underneath. You were hysterical. I called 911 before I left. Check the records. I made sure you'd be found. You called my father to gloat about it. I called to make sure someone would check on you. Your father chose to interpret it as gloating. Kirk's smile never wavered. See how easy it is to control a narrative? You say I'm a monster. I say I'm a concerned husband dealing with a mentally unstable wife. Who's the jury going to believe? The 5 other women you did this exact same thing to might have some opinions on that, Gregory said. Allegations. No proof. No convictions. Just some women with buyer's remorse trying to get their money back after failed marriages. What about Veronica Knox, your half-sister and partner in crime? For the first time, Kirk's smile flickered. Veronica is my business associate. Nothing more. Really? Because we have financial records showing you two have been running cons together for over a decade. We have communications planning Susan's con before you even met her. We have testimony from multiple victims identifying both of you. Circumstantial. Won't hold up in court. Maybe not. But it's holding up in the court of public opinion just fine. Gregory leaned forward. Your reputation is destroyed, Kirk. Veronica lost her job. Your father's parole is being denied because of your criminal activities. You can't run your con anymore because everyone knows your face. You've lost everything except the money you stole, and eventually we'll find that too. Kirk's smile turned cold. You think you've won? You think destroying my reputation matters? I can start over. New identity, new city, new marks. It's what I do, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Is that a confession? Susan asked quietly. Kirk looked at her, really looked at her for the first time, and Gregory saw something dangerous flash in his eyes. You want a confession, Susan? Fine. Yes, I married you for your money. Yes, I planned it from the start. Yes, I manipulated you, isolated you, made you doubt yourself. And you know what? It was easy. You were so desperate for someone to love you that you ignored every red flag, every warning. Your father saw through me from day one. But you didn't care because you wanted the fantasy more than the truth. Kirk, Gregory started. No, let him talk, Susan said, voice stronger now. I want to hear this. Kirk stood up, paced, warming to his subject. The narcissist couldn't help himself. You want to know why it worked? Because I'm better at reading people than they are at reading me. I see what people want, love, validation, security, and I give it to them. I become exactly what they need. And by the time they realize it's all fake, I'm already gone with everything they valued. And Veronica? Gregory asked, keeping him talking, letting the recording devices capture every word. Veronica's brilliant. Smarter than me, actually. She handles the financial end, the research, the long-term planning. I'm just the face. Together, we've built something perfect, a system that can't fail because it's based on the most reliable thing in the world. Human weakness. Perfect except you got caught, Susan said. Kirk laughed. Caught? I'm sitting here in Canada, free as a bird, rich off your money, and you think I got caught? Gregory, you made my life slightly more inconvenient. That's all. In 6 months, I'll have a new identity and a new target, and you'll still be in Seattle stewing about how your daughter was stupid enough to fall for me. My daughter wasn't stupid, Gregory said quietly, dangerously. She was trusting. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, the RCMP officers moved in then, no longer pretending to be hotel guests. Behind Kirk, more officers appeared. Kirk Dunham, one of them said, "You're under arrest pending extradition to the United States on charges of wire fraud, identity theft, and criminal conspiracy." Kirk's face went white. What? You can't. This is Canada. Funny thing about bragging, Gregory said, standing up. When you confess to multiple felonies on camera in a country with an extradition treaty, it tends to have consequences. One of the officers was already reading Kirk is rights while another cuffed him. Kirk was staring at Gregory in shock, the practiced charm completely shattered. You set me up. This whole meeting was a setup. Yes, Gregory said simply. Just like you set on my daughter. Just like you set up 6 other women. How does it feel? Kirk's expression twisted into something ugly. All pretense finally gone. You think this changes anything? My lawyer will have me out in days. Extradition takes months, years. I'll be gone before any of this sticks. Maybe, Gregory agreed. Or maybe Veronica's testimony, combined with your lovely confession here, combined with all the evidence from your storage unit, will be enough to make sure you spend the next decade in a federal prison. Time will tell. As the officers led Kirk away, still protesting, still threatening, Gregory felt Susan's hand slip into his. She was crying, but her smile was real. "Is it over?" she asked. "Almost," Gregory said. "We still have to make sure the charges stick, make sure he's actually extradited. But the hard part's done. He's in custody, he's on record confessing, and he's finally facing consequences." Sam was grinning from his observation post. "I got every word on 3 separate recording devices. Plus Amanda's camera crew captured everything. Kirk's not talking his way out of this one." Gregory looked at his daughter, saw the strength in her face, the steel that Kirk's abuse had tried to break, but only made stronger. He wanted to prove he was smarter than us. Instead, he proved exactly what I already knew. "What's that?" "That the biggest mistake any criminal can make is underestimating the people they've hurt." Gregory pulled Susan into a hug. "You did good, sweetheart. You faced him down and didn't break." "We did good," Susan corrected. "Together." And in that moment, in a Vancouver hotel lobby with rain pattering against the windows and Kirk Dunham being led away in handcuffs, Gregory Johnson felt something he hadn't felt since that 3 a.m. phone call. Peace. The hunt was over. Justice was being served, and his daughter was finally free. 6 months later, Gregory sat in the gallery of a federal courtroom in Seattle, watching the jury file back in after deliberating for less than 3 hours. Susan sat beside him, Edith on her other side, Sam behind them. The other victims were scattered throughout the gallery. Shirley, Betty, Rose, all watching with identical expressions of hope and fear. Kirk Dunham sat at the defense table, looking smaller somehow. The Titan had faded. The expensive suit had been replaced with prison-issued clothing. His lawyer, a public defender because Kirk's assets had been frozen pending the criminal investigation, looked tired. Veronica Knox had taken the deal. Her testimony had been damning, laying out in precise detail how she and Kirk had run their operation for over 12 years, victimizing at least 11 women, more than Gregory had even found. She'd pleaded guilty to conspiracy and fraud, gotten 5 years in exchange for full cooperation. But Kirk had refused to plead, had insisted on trial, convinced he could charm a jury, convinced his lawyer could create reasonable doubt. His narcissism hadn't let him accept defeat gracefully. The jury foreman stood. "On the count of wire fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of identity theft, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of criminal conspiracy." It went on for 17 counts. Guilty on all of them. Kirk's face went through a progression of emotions: shock, denial, rage, and finally, a kind of hollow acceptance. He looked back at the gallery, found Gregory's eyes, and for just a moment, the mask dropped completely. Gregory saw the angry, damaged child underneath the charming facade. Saw the pathetic con man who'd built his entire identity on hurting others and had finally run out of victims willing to be hurt. Gregory felt no satisfaction in it, no triumph, just a quiet sense that balance had been restored to the universe. The judge set sentencing for 6 weeks later. Kirk was remanded to custody. As the marshals led him away, Susan gripped Gregory's hand tightly. "It's really over," she said. "It's really over." Outside the courthouse, Amanda McDermott was waiting with her camera crew. She'd followed the story from beginning to end, had written a book about it that was already climbing bestseller lists. But she approached Susan with genuine warmth rather than journalistic detachment. "How do you feel?" she asked. Susan considered the question carefully. "Exhausted, relieved, and grateful. Kirk tried to convince me I was weak, that I deserved what he did to me. But fighting back, taking him down, seeing him finally face consequences, it proved something I needed to know. Which is that I was never weak. I was just trusting the wrong person. And there's a difference." She looked at Gregory. "My dad taught me that." Gregory pulled his daughter close, and for just a moment, they were back in that hospital room with Susan asking if it was over and Gregory promising they'd make Kirk pay. Promise kept. The sentencing hearing was less dramatic than the trial. Kirk's lawyer made a half-hearted plea for leniency, citing Kirk's difficult childhood, his father's influence, the possibility of rehabilitation. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Marianne Schultz, listened impassively. Then she asked if any of the victims wanted to make statements. Susan stood. She'd prepared remarks, had practiced them with Gregory. But when she got to the microphone, she set the paper aside and spoke from the heart. Kurt Dunham didn't just steal my money. He stole 3 years of my life. He made me doubt myself, question my reality, feel worthless and crazy. He isolated me from the people who loved me, controlled every aspect of my life, and then laughed about it when he left me drugged and bound in a closet. He thought breaking me would be easy. He thought I'd never fight back. And for a while, I believed him. But then my father reminded me of something important, that predators count on their victims staying victims. They count on shame and trauma, keeping people silent. And the only way to beat them is to refuse to stay silent, to refuse to stay broken. So I fought back. And with my father's help, with the help of other women Kirk victimized, we proved that no one is untouchable. Not even a con artist who thought he was smarter than everyone else. She sat down. Gregory squeezed her hand. Other victims spoke. Shirley, Betty, Rose, each telling similar stories of manipulation and theft and the long road to recovery. When they finished, Judge Schultz looked at Kirk with unconcealed disgust. Mr. Dunham, I've been on this bench for 23 years. I've sentenced murderers, rapists, child abusers. But rarely have I encountered someone as fundamentally lacking in empathy as you appear to be. You didn't steal just money. You stole these women's ability to trust, to feel safe, to believe in their own judgment. You systematically destroyed lives for profit and seem to enjoy doing it. The law provides a maximum sentence of 20 years on the charges you've been convicted of. I'm sentencing you to 18 years in federal prison, to be followed by 5 years supervised probation. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution to all identified victims, and you're permanently barred from any activity involving financial advising, consulting, or access to other people's assets. If you violate these terms, you will serve the maximum sentence. Do you understand? Kirk nodded mutely. 18 years. He'd be 52 when he got out, if he got out early for good behavior. Older, his best years gone, his reputation destroyed, his entire identity as a clever con artist reduced to ash. As the marshals led him away, Gregory allowed himself a small smile. Justice served. 3 months after the sentencing, Gregory sat on his back porch watching the sun set over the mountains. Susan was inside with Edith, cooking dinner, laughing about something. Real laughter, not the hollow sound it had been during her marriage. His phone rang. Sam, thought you'd want to know, Sam said. Phil Dunham's parole was denied. Again, turns out having a son in federal prison for multiple counts of fraud doesn't look good on parole hearings. Good, Gregory said. Like father, like son. Both of them exactly where they belonged. Also, the FBI recovered about 60% of the stolen money from various accounts. They're distributing it back to the victims based on what was taken. Susan should get her share within a few months. She doesn't even care about the money anymore, Gregory said. She just wanted Kirk to pay. Well, he's paying. Heard through the grapevine that he's not adjusting well to prison life. Turns out when you can't charm or manipulate your way out of situations, life gets a lot harder. Gregory chuckled darkly. Karma. They talked for a few more minutes about other cases, other investigations. Sam was working with the FBI now as a consultant on romance fraud cases, using everything they'd learned from taking down Kirk to help other victims. After hanging up, Gregory sat in the quiet evening, thinking about that 3 a.m. phone call that had started everything. Kirk's mocking voice saying Susan wouldn't be coming home. The note in the kitchen. The guest room with its evidence of months of planning and manipulation. Kirk had thought he was untouchable, had thought his cleverness would protect him forever. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd hurt Gregory Johnson's daughter. And Gregory had spent 3 decades learning exactly how to destroy people who hurt innocent victims. The door opened and Susan came out, carrying 2 beers. She handed one to Gregory and sat beside him. What are you thinking about? She asked. That night, the phone call. Finding you in that closet. Do you regret it? Everything we did to take him down. Gregory considered the question. They bent some rules, crossed some ethical lines, operated in gray areas a prosecutor normally wouldn't touch. But looking at his daughter now, strong, healed, whole, he knew the answer. Not for a second, he said. Kirk chose to prey on you. He chose to hurt you. He chose to laugh about it. Everything that happened after that was just consequences catching up to choices he made. Susan leaned against his shoulder. Thank you, Dad, for believing me, for fighting for me, for not giving up even when it seemed impossible. That's what fathers do, Gregory said simply. We protect our children, no matter what it takes. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Inside, Edith called that dinner was ready. Life moved on. Susan had a new job, was seeing a therapist, was slowly rebuilding the life Kirk had tried to destroy. The other victims were healing too, finding strength in community and justice. And Kirk Dunham was in a federal prison in Colorado, his charm useless, his manipulation tactics ineffective against hardened criminals and disinterested guards, serving 18 years for the crime of underestimating a father's love for his daughter. Gregory stood, followed Susan inside, and closed the door on the past. The story was over. Justice had been served, and the Johnson family was finally, truly free.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.